Yes, you are live with Cornerstone On Demand, and I am joined by phenomenal panelists today. If you, like us, are thinking about how on earth can you navigate change with learning, you've come to the right place. So here's the intro, a little off script for today. I do a lot of webinars. I may know some of you. My name is Summer Solomonson. I head up Cornerstone Studios, which basically is a title that makes me sound way cooler than I am. But today we're going to be talking with folks that use Cornerstone to drive meaningful change in their organization. But before we get to that, I have the joy of doing the housekeeping today. Now, usually I don't script my sessions. Most of what I say just comes right out. But today I'm going to have to do the housekeeping script, so bear with me. I will give you my very best housekeeping voice, but this is important because this is how we're going to navigate the next hour. Here goes. As far as today's agenda, we'll kick this off with speaker introductions. Then we'll have live panel discussions for approximately 45 minutes before diving into your questions for the live, yes, live, Q&A segment. Before we get started, let's review a few housekeeping items. At the bottom of your screen, there are multiple engagement tools you can use during the webinar. All the tools are resizable and movable, so feel free to move them around to get the most out of your screen space. If you're not really keen on seeing all of our faces for the next hour, no problem. Nobody has to know. Sorry, I went off script for that one. All right, if you have any technical issues or questions during the webcast, please enter them in through the Q&A tool. We will answer audience questions about what we're talking about at the end of the webcast. As a reminder, this is being streamed through your computer, so there is no dial-in number. For the best audio quality, please make sure your computer speakers or headset or earbuds, went off script again, are turned on and the volume is up so you can hear all of us loud and clear. We got really good things to say. I'm way off script now. This webcast is being recorded and will be provided to all of you in the next 24 to 48 hours. Also, important part, continuing education credit is available for this event, which will last up to 60 minutes. But you got to stay on for the entire time to receive it. You'll get those activity codes with a certification widget. I was more stressed about that than the next hour. Okay, what to expect? We are talking about navigating crisis through learning. When I think about this, I come back to the 4 C's. I'm going to give you 4 words right now. For you dutiful folks, write them down. If you can remember them, that's great. This is what our conversation comes back to: communication, connection, calibration, and catalyst. We're going to talk to these phenomenal women about how they are doing just this during a time of unprecedented change. My goal for any webinar is that you're able to walk away with just one awesome thing, just one moment, one tool, one pith, one nugget, one thing that will help you do what you do better. For the chat feature, we're not watching that while we're presenting because we're talking about cool stuff. So why don't you use that to give our panelists a shout out? If you hear a great idea, say it. Give them a way to go or great idea. They'll look at it later and feel really proud about what they've done. Or share ideas yourself. We have a lot of people on this call. Don't be shy. Be proud of what you've done. Share your idea. Use the Q&A, the QA button at the bottom to ask questions of our panelists for the end. I will go through those when we break to our live Q&A for the last 15 minutes, and we'll answer your questions. So let's move right in. Let's intro our panelists. Now here, we've given you their headshots, their title, their roles, their companies. What I'd like to do is have them share with you what is top of mind to bring to a successful close this unprecedented year of 2020. Caitlin, let's start with you. Caitlin, you might be muted.
Rule number 1 on remote learning and videos, turn your mute off if you are about to speak. That was off script. Thanks, Summer, and thank you to Cornerstone and to Lindsay as well, the team, and putting together today's panel discussion. Really excited to be here, speak to fellow Cornerstone clients as well as prospects about the work that we've done with the team and the work that we've done in L&D over the last several months. So to answer the question or the idea here about what we're thinking about looking at as we go into 2021 and leaving 2020, I think it's always a time of reflection as one year ends and the new one begins. And you're thinking back, we have been in our current state for most of this year, actually starting in the mid-March timeframe. So I think there's always an opportunity to look at what we could do better, but as well as looking at what we've done well and what has worked for us and how we can continue to iterate on that. So to give you an example, I think that the constant updates that Cornerstone has provided to its customers and clients who use their training and their learning throughout this time, but also specific to this time. One of the things that our organization utilized to a great degree was the remote working resources that Cornerstone put together very quickly and offered to clients. And these were trainings, videos, micro-learning that could be accessed by anyone. So we were able to share that with our employees, their families, their friends, to really help them to navigate. And especially in the early days of being at home and figuring out how to do this, it was extremely valuable. So I like to continue to think about the things that we did well and really iterate on those going into 2021.
I love that, Caitlin. Time for reflection, time for readiness for 2021. And here's hoping 2021 has bluer skies ahead. Let's all hope for that. Lisa, over to you. What's top of mind as you finish out this year?
Our goal for the rest of 2021 is to bring back as much of our workforce as we can. As we went through the year, like many companies, we had to furlough a large number of employees. So we want to bring them back, but give them the most seamless reintegration back to their job that we can do through different trainings that I'll talk about through the webinar here, but curricula, the different tools that we've created. So ultimately, they're giving the patients that we treat the best experience that we can. So just the communication and the consistency as we go throughout the rest of this year is what we're focusing on, both for our employees as well as our patients.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Lisa. And Leanne, finish us out. What's top of mind for you?
Thank you so much, Summer. Pretty much the same as Lisa and Caitlin. When we started out in March, we had to quickly do something for our employees, for our team members, for their learning, and for moving forward. So we definitely were able to use the wonderful Cornerstone Cares, the content that was provided for us, the communication. We quickly, and I think that's the thing that was so impressive, was that we so quickly could put something together to communicate with our team members that had to move remotely right away. And that was first and foremost, is how do we communicate with folks that normally would have been in the bank branch or in our back office, and that immediately we wanted to make sure that they knew of all of the changes. So moving forward, not only the end of 2020 and into 2021, we're going to grow that piece. We're going to move forward. We're going to hope to get folks back into our instructor-led training, but also create hybrid learning, because we don't know what might happen down the road. So we want to be prepared. We definitely want to have something out there that will, teach our team members and to do it well and to do it safely. So that's our goal for our next at least year and a half.
I love that, Leanne. And for those of you paying attention, Leanne actually just hit on 2 of the 4 C words, which is communication and calibration. How do you get new information out, and how do you make sure everyone's on the same page? It sounds a lot simpler when you put it as a bullet point on a slide than actually making it happen. So let's get into today. All right, live panel discussion. I've had a chance to speak with our panelists about the major initiatives they're undertaking now and into the future. And we're going to unpack some of that to see how you might extrapolate some learning of how to use Cornerstone products to navigate crisis through learning. Lisa, I'd like to start with you. One of the conversations we had was around your innovation of the Reintegration Curriculum and how you use that to bring back employees after a time of furlough. Can you give us the context around that and what change that drove for you at your organization?
Sure. So our reintegration curriculum has a welcome back checklist. So when we had to furlough our employees, it was when things were moving so rapidly, so quickly, and there was a lot of different policy and process changes within our organization. For example, how our clinicians are to clean in between each patient's during the patient visits to keep the patient safe, the staff safe. And so when our employees were coming back from a furlough, we had a checklist that offered all kinds of different learning that they could go through to learn all the different processes that we had put into place. The problem with the checklist was that it wasn't trackable. There was no accountability, and it really was information that all of our, so we went originally having a welcome back banner on our welcome page that they could click on, and it linked right to that checklist, to actually making an entire curriculum with that same information. And so what happens is every week, the managers across the organization let us know when they have an employee returning to work, and that employee's return is due to us by Thursday. We put a learning assignment together on Fridays that launches on Monday. So on Monday, when that employee returns from a furlough, they have a reintegration on their curriculum or on their transcript, and the managers help guide them to, before you come back into your patient care, before you come back to your normal work responsibilities, you need to go through this reintegration curriculum. It's first and foremost, it has to be, because again, it goes over all of our policies and procedures for cleaning. We started treating patients via telehealth. So it talks about how to either treat with telehealth or to have a kind of a hybrid approach between in-clinic and telehealth. And so there was a lot of change that happened, and it was our way to bring clinicians back to work and give them the information that they needed to know for the now that we're in.
And after you first rolled this out, how many iterations have you had since that time? What did you discover in rolling this out, and how did your people kind of respond, et cetera, et cetera?
Sure. So we actually were still on our first iteration of the curriculum, but we had a couple iterations of the checklist before we got to the curriculum. Because again, information was changing so rapidly that as soon as we created a training and we pushed it out onto the checklist, it was already invalid. The information had changed, and so we had to change it again. At this point, things have slowed down a little bit, and so our curriculum has stayed as is. And it's been very well received. And we've been able to monitor compliance of the managers informing us of their employee returning to work, because we do our annual compliance training every year, and that happens in May. And our initial furlough happened just before that. The big push where we had to send people out was end of March, beginning of April. And so we pushed the compliance training out, our annual training, to everybody, whether they were furloughed or not. And so we have to track when people come back and if they're completing. So we actually track through our hours. As soon as employees are reporting hours back, we know that they're working. So we're already running that report to track completions of our annual training. And so now we can use that to compare to if the managers are actually telling us that their employees came back to work. And so far, we've had great compliance with our program, because the managers don't have time to sit down and tell the employees everything that has changed over the past months. So this has been a great tool for them to get, again, communication, just that consistent communication, that message about everything that they have to do to be in compliance with the clinical expectations today. So they have welcomed it because it takes a burden off their shoulders. Fantastic
use of the C word, communication. Brilliantly dropped in at the end there. It's the big one. It's the big one. Thank you so much for sharing that with us, Lisa. Caitlin, I'm going to jump over to you now. I know we chatted a bit about your organization had gone through a lot of restructuring pre-COVID, and that was kind of falling out during the time of pandemic. But specifically, you had talked a lot around that conversion of classroom to virtual. Can you share with us that path and how you were successful in that? Caitlin, you're on mute.
I did it again. Sorry. Okay, third time's the charm. Next time you call me, I promise I will get off mute. So we laugh at, if you don't laugh at yourself, you have to have fun with yourself. So at the time of the pandemic, we really had two types of training available in North America, which was how we were previously structured, which was e-learning on the Cornerstone system platform. We call it the MERT Success Center. Company's name is MERT Aesthetics. So the MERT Success Center, as well as live training, classroom training, the traditional classroom training. And so at the time of the pandemic, we realized, okay, so we have one thing here that we can iterate on, but it's in existence and available, which is the e-learning. However, we did put some promotions together to be able to share, again, as we have on a regular basis up to that point, but in a new way, how employees could access the wealth of information on the platform. So we also subscribe to the content offerings from Cornerstone. So we have Content Anytime, we have CyberU, and through both of those, we have thousands of pieces of content. So we really wanted to make sure that people knew it was there, that it was available, and we created some learning paths or tracks based on subject matter. One of the biggest requests that we had was change management, and how do we help employees through this change. Resilience was our number two searched topic, and one that we provided a great wealth of information. One of the best training videos out there is done through TED Talks through Cornerstone that we had one of the founders of Facebook host. So really, really key content. So we had something, we just had to promote it. And on the other side, getting back to Summer's question about the live, traditional classroom training, we had to adapt that to be virtual. And we actually were able to use Cornerstone, or our MERT Success Center, as part of that, and be able to house the recordings of those sessions that were done live online and disseminate them. So one of the greatest things about having a system in place is not only are we able to track, as Lisa was speaking about, track attendance and track completion, but also we're able to get it out to a wide audience. So while we had limitations with the numbers of attendees to attend that live online training, we actually were able to open it up to more folks as we were able to send out those recordings of those sessions. And as another note, as we went through the reorganization, we expanded globally. And so at the time, or shortly right before the time of the start of the pandemic, I became the lead of L&D for the global company. And so the other regions of the world did not have any training structured, whether it be traditional or online training. So that presented another challenge, which I'm happy to talk about now or at a later time. So lots of goodness and lots of, I would say, solutions. So we really were able to support quickly, similar to some of the comments you made.
I love that, Caitlin, that mention of kind of calibration, bringing new areas online during a time of chaos and, if not crisis. Let's talk a little bit about that. How did you get the support for these new instances in other regions of the world that hadn't really had this experience before? What was your success approach for that?
Right. Well, one thing that has been certainly a positive in terms of a desire and from the employees regarding L&D, before we had launched our online learning, the desire was there. There was a hunger for it. People were really just so excited to get it. And so just to kind of go back in time a little bit and then bring us up to present, we launched our learning system in January of 19. So it was about a year earlier to the U.S. And subsequent, as time went on, we also launched to Canada, and we launched different components of the system to our sales team in both the U.S. and Canada. And so the desire was there. Certainly, there's always a need for promotion and marketing of learning and learning systems. So we really did have to do that. Communications methods. We always have some kind of, fun promotion that we put in place. We actually are having a launch today of a new page as part of our homepage in our Mart Success Center that has brought together all of the best of the remote working resources, because we will remain remote, many of us, for the next several months. So we had the desire there, but what was great about having a system is the analytics and being able to show value to leadership to get that support, because that's key. As many of us as HR professionals or learning and development professionals know, showing that ROI on the actual program or platform that we're pitching or that we've put in place. And so we were easily able to do that. And we were lucky in the sense that we had a year of history, at least for North America. The system had been in place for a year. What we were able to do for global, since we did not have the 3 other regions, they did not yet have access to the Mart Success Center, is we were able to pull some of the content there. We shared with them certainly the Cornerstone Cares, as we've mentioned, in the content that was available there, and put it together in another way to at least get them access to start the learning process. And again, the desire and the need and the hunger from the employee population was there, coupled with our ability to show statistics of utilization, at least from the North American team. And what really pushed us, I think, over the edge in a positive way, as we now will have the other 3 regions adopt Cornerstone in our new fiscal year, which starts in July. So we'll have our entire global team on the platform, is showing the statistics, showing the numbers of usage during the pandemic. The numbers were just the roof. Just to give you an example, within the months, I think it was mid-March till about mid-May. So, you're looking at really only 2 months. We had over 9,000 hours of content accessed and completed, with just over, just a few hundred employees participating. So that's an enormous amount of content that was accessed. And I think that has always been important to us, and we're very happy that that's helped us to support our case, continue doing what we're doing with our learning system, and also to expand it globally.
Wow, Caitlin, I dare say you just took us to the 4th C, which is catalyst. That feels like catalyst to me. That is, and through a time of just information changing daily, people are concerned, we're not sure where we're going. Phenomenal. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. Leanne, let's move to you now. And I know we had talked earlier about one of the biggest things you've undertaken over the past couple quarters is making that transition to remote. Can you give us a picture of what that's been like, what challenges you faced?
Absolutely. Traditionally, Penn Community Bank, we were not a remote workplace. We have our bank branches and we have our back office. So going remote, at a snap of a finger, we really had to move quickly, and we're very forward thinking in that way. Because we've had Cornerstone since 2017, our team members were very familiar with where to find content and where to find, how to get into their training and such. But we found that using Cornerstone, because it was so familiar, was the best place to communicate. So one of the first things that we had to do was put together a policy on remote workplace, because that was so new to us. So we wanted to make sure that our team members had that information. So at the same time that we were doing that, Cornerstone Cares was provided to us. So that actually was a great benefit, because we then created, instead of just sending out that policy and having the team members sign off on it, we thought it would be best to also educate them at the same time. So we were able to create a curriculum. So we included a couple of Grovo courses that really spoke to working effectively remotely, how to engage remotely, because this is certainly a first time for our team members. So that curriculum went out, was very well received, and certainly it had the policy in there too, and they signed off on it. So that was at the very beginning when we started to, definitely utilize Cornerstone in that communication process. We were updating our team members weekly with bulletins because you know how everything changed on a dime. Something changed in your state or in your county even. So we wanted to keep our team members that we knew weren't in their home branch or their back office, they were from home. We wanted to make sure that they all had the same information. And I think that's definitely a key is consistency. Is that a fifth C? That might be a fifth C. So
it is a fifth C.
There you go. But it's so important right now that we all know the same thing so that we all can come to that same conclusion. So knowing that Cornerstone, once our team members signed off on those bulletins, it's still there. It's still in their transcript. They just go into the completed part and they can read over those bulletins so they have that up-to-date information. So moving forward, we definitely wanted to continue with our learning and development, which is so important because we're still hiring new employees. We're still growing our current employees, the team members. We want them to be, continuing to grow. So now we're definitely working on moving our instructor-led training to virtual or even hybrid. So I can say today, we just finished our yearly anti-harassment and legal training for our entire bank. I am so happy with the amount of folks. There was no struggle. I want to say it's about 99% folks definitely signed up and attended all of the trainings that were provided through Cornerstone. We did it via Zoom, so that was definitely a first for a lot of people, and it went seamlessly. And I've been able to report to you that information because I just went right into Cornerstone, I ran my reports, and I had my conclusions right away. And the off couple of folks that weren't able to join us were not in the office. So it was a wonderful way to get that information out there without having to worry about, as both Lisa and Kit were talking about compliance training. It's so important to keep up, to be consistent, to have that word get out there to our team members. So definitely moving forward, that is, our 2021. We actually have just created what we call a hybrid course. Typically, we would have our team members in-house. We would be teaching them. So we created a course via Articulate, uploaded that into Cornerstone. And then in that curriculum, we also have we're going to have an ILT. So we have it, but it's going to be following all protocol. So it's sort of a hybrid. They're getting a little bit of online learning, so they're already getting that information, but then they're going to come in person, a small group, and then have that interaction, that engagement. And moving forward, we're going to look at doing that to a lot of our instructor-led trainings. We're going to move them into a hybrid. Even a program that we run as well, our job shadow program that we're really proud about. That, as you can imagine, stopped. We couldn't have our team members go sit side by side with another team member. So we're working together with our HR, and we're going to come up with a hybrid version where they start out online. And then, because we are coming back into the office, folks are coming back in. So we want to have that out there. It's always going to be utilized. So we're really excited, can you tell, about, getting these together and putting these classes together, because that's what it's all about, is education and consistency and communication.
Leanne, I so appreciate that. Look, I am a firm believer that some of the best innovation comes out of times of constraint. And you've demonstrated that. I mean, now you've innovated a model that you see as relevant even beyond this time. Well done. Well done. All right. I want to do a round robin with our panelists because if you're like me, I think they have a lot of insight to share. And I'm going to ask you one question. I want to know the new ways that you leveraged Cornerstone during this time that you've undertaken the thing you just shared with us. Lisa, let's go back to you. What's a new way you leveraged Cornerstone?
Sure. The way we leverage it that was new would be putting images, the banner images on our welcome page. So basically we have two different versions of our welcome page, one for managers and one for non-managers. And we put 3 different banners on the welcome page, which was new, in totally different colors, everything to really pop and stand out. And so we had the same 3 banners for the manager welcome page as well as the employee welcome page. But those banners linked to new custom pages that we had put into place. So we had a coronavirus page. And on the coronavirus page, we had all of our policies, our procedures, our essential cleaning documents. So all of our in-house stuff that we made. But then we also had links to the CDC and different things that they were saying or offering, different ways to cope with stress for adults, for children. So we had all sorts of infographics, tools, as well as the essentials that they needed for their job. The second page that we used, which was, again, one of our banners on the welcome page, was our telehealth page. So we call it Cora Vision, but we made a page for telehealth. So telehealth is something that we offered before COVID crisis started, but many insurances didn't pay for it. But when the crisis started and people weren't coming into the clinics, it was an essential service. We had post-operative patients that, to make the most out of their surgery, they needed their therapy. And so we started doing telehealth services, and patients started utilizing that service because their insurance would then pay for it. So we had instructions on the applications that we would use, Zoom or different platforms that they could use for the telehealth, depending on the patient's preference and what technology they had available. We had spreadsheets that we constantly kept updated on which insurance would pay for telehealth and which wouldn't. In fact, I updated that again today. So it's still live, it's still happening. And then our third was home health. So our Medicare patient population, they can actually have therapy right in their home. So if they didn't want to come into more of a group setting in the clinic, maybe some of our elder population wasn't comfortable with the technology of telehealth, they would welcome that one person into their home to provide their services. So for each of those custom pages, we had a banner that we put on our welcome page. So a direct link right in your face, didn't have to go through the menu bar. And it gave another way to just easily communicate. And it was kind of a promise to our employees that come to these pages and you're always going to have the most updated current information that you need. And it, for us, was better than having to email or risking someone missing an email or saving a document and then missing an update later. So the banner images on our welcome pages were a saving grace, and it was new. It wasn't something that we had done before.
I love that so much, Lisa. And I love the undercurrent of we're building something that you can trust as employees. We recognize this is a critical part of your job and we're taking it seriously. Thanks so much for sharing that. Caitlin, over to you. What's a new way you leverage Cornerstone during this time?
Unmute. Yay. All right. I figured it out. So I'm glad you called on me next because my experience is really similar to Lisa's. And I think it really illustrates the ways that customers like us can be innovative with Cornerstone and to be able to add things to change things. So we also created on our homepage, which is just a singular page that all of the applications kind of are driven from, a section that we called current resources. And we have updated this on a regular basis. It's a one-stop shop. You click one button on the welcome page, and then up comes the customized page where we've segmented in kind of one place, again, resources on IT technology, which is really important. Update our team members on the uses of WebEx, and also Microsoft Office. This has been an opportunity for us to be able to share with all our team members the multiple resources available on training on Microsoft Office and the applications that they're using every day. So IT technology, that's one column. We have employee engagement and resilience. That's a second column. So much great information. Again, we referred to Cornerstone Cares earlier. Our third section, time management and productivity. And then our fourth is total wellness. And I think both Leanne and Lisa had mentioned total wellness, wellness benefits being so important. So we've been able to design this page and then to bring in the content mostly from the system, from the Cornerstone content providers, in one place. And because we had such high utilization of the system and of the MERT Success Center during the pandemic, it is a trusted resource. It's a trusted place to go get this information. And I feel like the experience that I've had at MERT and in my previous professional life, if you can make something easy to find, easy to manage, and to navigate, people will use it. You just got to get them there. So if they can do one or two steps to that page and to find all this information, it's a win. And I would just say that we are definitely not technical professionals. I speak for myself and my team. Certainly they're probably more technically able than I am, but we are able, all of us, to do all of the things that have created this resource page. We've been able to make the updates. We've been able to add the design. Leanne talked earlier about being able to run reports and gather data. It's really very easy to do for someone, especially like me, who doesn't know how to turn the mute on and off. I am non-technical, but it has definitely been something that has been easy to do and has allowed us to be innovative and informative and to make that and allow for updates and to make that information consistent and creative.
Fantastic. Caitlin, I'll tell you, the most important thing when it comes to virtual presentation is authenticity, and you have that in spades. So thank you for that. Leanne, over to you. Tell us about a new way you leveraged Cornerstone over these past few months.
So definitely one of the first things we did was to share with every team member and their families the Cornerstone Cares, because we wanted them to have those resources about a time that's a challenge for everybody, not just in work, but outside of work. So they were very grateful to have that information to move forward and to gather, any details that they may need. Additionally, we typically have our compliance training through Cornerstone twice a year. We send it out. Part A is in the beginning of the year, and then Part B is towards the middle to end of year. So because of COVID and because of the changing of the workplace, we decided to release Part B early. So instead of having that go out in July, we sent that out in March so that we let our team members have additional work. Should there be any downtime, should there be any gaps, we wanted to, as I mentioned before, our bank is very forward thinking and consistently making sure our team members are healthy in both their health and in their workplace. So we wanted to make sure they had their work available to them. I'm so happy that we did that, because we saw an absolute uptick in the completion, which, as anybody can imagine, it's sort of hard to get folks to do their compliance training. So not only were they able to complete their first part of their training, they did a lot of the second as well. And while they were there, because they were already utilizing Cornerstone, they took advantage of that other content that was loaded into our content library, because those topics were amazing. They were what we needed to have in there. We actually saw an increase of 100% of usage of any of our content, because they already knew to go in there to read their bulletins and to go in there to do their compliance training. So, I'm in there. Why don't I go ahead and search for something else that can help me during this time? Because a lot of that information was about, as we mentioned before, remote workplace, but also health and well-being. And that definitely was something that I'm so glad that we were given by Cornerstone to be able to supply to our team members, because I really felt that helped us really connected and just helped us through a difficult time, a challenging time. So I know that a lot of our team members, they've been in Cornerstone so much more now because of all of the things that are provided to them.
Thank you so much, Leanne. Folks, you've heard us talk a lot today about how professionals just like you are navigating crisis through learning. Yes, we choose the titles of these very carefully. We've all gone through some significant crisis over the past 6 months. How I want to move now, ladies, we've talked a little bit about the practical and tactical. You've shared the context of your major initiatives. I want to do some looking forward. I think so often times of compressed and unprecedented change get us focused so much on now that looking forward feels like too much. It's one bridge too far. It's just enough to get our arms around what's challenging now. So as we head to the end of this year, yes, tomorrow is October somehow, and we start looking into 2021, how are you going to keep the momentum going for these amazing initiatives you started? Lisa, let's start with you.
Great question. And it's actually good for us because we've thought about this, and our custom pages in a way are a little bit of hand-holding. It's not objects within our catalog. It's stuff we put there, we grab the URL and just put it right there on the custom page for easy access. But going forward, we want our employees, our learners within our system, to take initiative for their own learning, to go out and find the stuff that they missed or find the stuff that we're offering our ILTs during the time when they're maybe treating patients. And so we're actually doing our annual content update right now. And as we go through our annual content updating, we're really focusing on our keywords and linking keywords within our course catalog to various core values, things related to COVID, so that as our employees come into the system and they're now searching, because as it was said, our employees are using our system so much more now because what they need is there. And so we want to leverage that usage right now and help them find what they're after. So going forward, one of the initiatives that we're doing is keywords within our course catalog to really link different LOs that we have within the system to some different initiatives that are happening across the company. So coronavirus being one of them, telehealth being another one, or home therapy, and other things that we have going on.
Super tactical. Thank you, Lisa. Caitlin, how are you going to keep this momentum going?
We're excited to be able to incorporate our e-learning platform into other parts of the employee experience. And those will be our performance process and employee development plans. So as we put together our employee development plan template, we actually created a section where employees can identify and self-identify. As you know, Lisa was saying, this is, we want career development and learning to be self-directed as well as supported by leadership and by L&D, but self-directed. So we've actually inserted a section on the individual development plan where employees can go out and find courses, videos, all various types of training within Cornerstone, and name those as goals and things that they want to complete to support the areas that they have for development and to support their career development. So whether they have named a certain position that they aspire to or a certain set of skills, they can now pair those with courses in Cornerstone that will support that development. So that's really exciting. And the development plan is something that's always, is alive and is able to change throughout the year. So we'll look to do a review of that twice a year. And in addition, we really are looking at the performance component of this and how important we really want to highlight the importance of learning and development as part of the employee's performance. So it's in addition to just kind of doing the core responsibilities or core tasks of the job, taking an interest and taking initiative in their learning and development. They have a world-class system available to them in addition to these virtual courses that are available also through the world-class learning system. So we really are encouraging of that, and we are recognizing that with their performance as part of their performance review. So really important, I think, both to recognize it through performance and also to be able to incorporate it into their development plans and directly into their development plans is very exciting. And I would say, just as a final note, we have employees that range from hourly staff members to PhDs. We are in a pharmaceutical company, varying levels of education, background, roles, and we really have options that fit all of the career interests and career levels that we have throughout the company through the system. So it is consistent, it's comprehensive, and it will soon be global, which is also very exciting.
You know what's so amazing about that, as I'm sitting here listening to you, Caitlin, is not only are you managing everything that's happening now, but you have not forsaken or forgotten that your people still need to grow. And I think so often we forget of, oh, we just figured out how to communicate and calibrate and get them aligned and all these great things, but there's going to be a next year and there's going to be a next quarter. So thank you so much for representing that long-term goal for employees. I know for me and for a lot of you on the call, that is always how we're thinking. Leanne, over to you. How are you keeping this momentum going?
So definitely, we're continuing to move those instructor-led courses into online courses, looking to do all of them so that they're available to all team members. Definitely, as you can imagine with a bank, it's sometimes hard to get our team members into one location because they're busy during the day, and it's harder to have team members move from one location to another. So we definitely want to continue that momentum of changing over those instructor-led courses into online. Additionally, we do have learning performance and we also have succession. So all these pieces work together. And one of the things that I was sort of researching is check-ins through Cornerstone. It's a great way, we're still remote and we may continue to be remote for some time. So we want to be able to communicate and just touch base with our team members that aren't physically beside us or, in the next office. So I've just actually started to scratch the surface on check-ins, but that's something I definitely, and we as a whole team, we want to make sure that we maybe implement either the end of this year, beginning of next year, just to keep pace with our team members. And because you can integrate goals in there, so we can chat about goals and leave comments, and it's like a log of anything that you've communicated with. So definitely check-ins is top on our list to sort of get out there to our team members.
I use check-ins. I love it. It's such a phenomenal way to stay connected, and it lets you be specific. I run studios, right? So I have strategists, I have creatives, I have all sorts of different folks, but it aligns the process while keeping the individual distinct. And that's what I like about it. I couldn't help it. I use that. I know that. Okay. For those of you that have been hanging on to the 60-minute mark because you want that CE, do not dismay. We're now going to move into our live Q&A session. So sit back and relax or lean forward and freak out. Either way, we're going to do this. So Q&As, I've seen them coming in. Allow me to scroll here as I look through what's coming. Let's do a question from Audrey first. Caitlin, I'm going to pitch this one over to you. Does Cornerstone provide a library of courses for you, or do you have to develop your own? What's been your experience here? Uh-oh, Caitlin. Fourth time's a charm. We got it.
Fourth time is a charm. Okay. No, that is a great question, and I would say that we've received so much by way of breadth and depth of content through Cornerstone. So we've got, as I mentioned before, technical areas of study. We have everything you could probably imagine under the soft skills training. We have also, as part of the I think it's called the compliance, we've been talking about compliance, our compliance offering also includes a wealth of courses on diversity and inclusion. And that has been something, I hadn't mentioned it before, but really has been something that our company has been focusing on as part of our strategy, part of our objectives for the last few years, and has been great to have available for employees. We have an office in Kenosha, Wisconsin, and so in recent events, was able to really specifically pull some of the great course offerings, information to share with our team there, as they all work through a difficult time in their region of the country. So we have the content. I would say that what I've really enjoyed working with is the support staff at Cornerstone to figure out how to present it and how to package it. So to answer your question, we have it, and we've worked really to figure out how to position it. I think both Lisa and I spoke about this resource page that we've created during the pandemic, but there's lots of creative ways to do it. And I think, just being able to have more than we know what to do with has been great. And we've been able to draw from it at different times. As we talked about during COVID, we had resources right at the ready. During, the last several months of unrest, and we've had great resources to share with employees around diversity, inclusion, and belonging. So I feel like not only do we have a foundation, but Cornerstone keeps up with what's going on in the world, what is trending, what is important, what is needed. And so I've never felt like we're backtracking or asking for something and it takes a long time to get it. They're really ahead of the curve before we even ask for or discuss a need that we have. They're ahead and they're ready to support that need.
Thank you so much, Caitlin. And for those of you who missed my title, which, we always listen to those, right? At the beginning of this, I head Cornerstone Studios. My team is the team that's building all the amazing original content that goes into Cornerstone Content Anytime. And you want to learn more about that? Talk to your representative, add a chat call out, and we'll get back to you. But legit awesome stuff. Workplace learning content does not have to be boring. Okay, next question here. Leanne, I'm going to shoot this one over to you. Any tips on keeping employees engaged in training during COVID while many are furloughed, so workload is higher for employees still working?
That's a great question, because that is something that is a concern during like an online learning. So using the courses that we're creating through that Articulate, they are very engaging. There's quizzes involved in those. There's graphics and things. They're not just, as you were mentioning, they're not just boring something. They're definitely engaging to the team members so that when they're watching or learning, they're definitely enjoying what they're learning. We also, in our content and in our curriculum, we have check-ins with their managers. So if they're learning something and they're at a good stopping point, they will have a weekly check-in with that manager. So they're definitely engaged because they go through that content, they learn, and then they have like maybe a question and answer or some type of round robin like we're doing, and they just talk about the content. So it's definitely keeping them engaged. So we just don't have just a flat, like a one-dimensional. We definitely keep everyone engaged with like a check-in, and there's our check-in. But so definitely having that communication with the manager will definitely keep them, engaged with what they're learning.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Leanne. Lisa, I'm going to drop this one in your box. Question from Carmen. What topics or areas are the most popular in your return to work library?
So for us, we're healthcare, and it's our clinicians that want to know how to keep the patient safe and how to keep themselves safe. So the content that's most popular for us is our new cleaning requirements. We use different chemicals, we have different things. So even something as simple as our patients come in, or when you go to a doctor's office, you go in and you check in, you grab a pen and you write your name down. No two people can touch the same pen anymore. So just a simple process, like now we have a clean pen cup and now we have a dirty pen cup, and the dirty pens are sterilized before they go back to the clean pen cup. But you consider a physical therapy clinic and all the different equipment. We have treadmills, we have TheraBands, we have balls, just weights, everything. And no two people can touch the same thing before things are clean. So that is probably our most sought after information that our employees are looking for when they come back to work is, what do I have to do to keep the clinic clean, to keep my patients healthy, to keep myself healthy. And then for our front desk receptionist, all the different changing insurance requirements would be the next most popular. Again, the insurances are being very dynamic right now with what they pay for. So pre-COVID, they didn't pay for telehealth. Today, we had an update on 5 different insurances that I think 2 of them withdrew telehealth services. 3 of them are continuing it to the end of the year. And so our receptionists have to be very aware of what that is, as do our therapists, so they can recommend the appropriate treatment for their patients. So cleaning, insurance information are the top 2. And I think the question was, what was the top 3? So the top 3 is really communication. No, I don't have to reach for it. I can keep going. Is communication. So the way that our clinicians are communicating with our patients right now is different. So the next thing is, how do I talk to my patients? How am I recommending care when they're scared or nervous to come into the clinics? How am I recommending telehealth therapy when they're concerned that they might have a technological issue, or that they think that they can only get good therapy if the therapist's hands are on the patient? So communication, I know it's one of our C words here today, but it is so important with our clinicians because these are things that they've never dealt with before. You don't learn this in school. You've never had to deal with this with your patients before. So they want to keep everybody safe. They want to be able to recommend the appropriate treatment that their insurances will cover, and they want to be able to have those intelligible conversations with their patients. So those would be our top 3.
Thank you so much, Lisa. And I'm going to do a quick follow-on. We had a question from Jasmina saying, hey, this is something our organization is facing as well. Was that checklist setup that you referred to in the observation checklist functionality? Any chance you could speak to that briefly?
Yeah, we use observation checklists. I love them. They are amazing. But that checklist was just a PDF that we created. So something to be printed off or interactive. It was an interactive PDF, so they could put a little check mark there. But it was just simply a PDF that listed out the learning objects that we most recommended. So there was 3 sections. There was you have to do this. So if you were out during compliance training, you have to do your compliance training. And then you had to review the coronavirus policies. So there was things you had to do, and then recommended to get you back up to speed, and then additional resources like changes in our technology since you've been away and stuff like that. But it was just a PDF.
Excellent. Thank you for clarifying that. Leanne, I'm going to come back to you, a question about something you were referencing. I'm curious about these bulletins Leanne has mentioned. What functionality is she leveraging to execute this?
So the bulletins, we sent those out weekly and sometimes more often through Cornerstone. What we would do is I would create the PDF, and then I would upload that into Material. And then I would send that out as a learning assignment tool to our team members with a signature required on that material. And then once the team member completed and read and completed that entire bulletin, they would sign off on it, and then it would still be housed within Cornerstone for them to go back and read. Sometimes we provided links within the bulletins to help our team members find outside resources. So because that information was still housed within Cornerstone in their transcript, they could go back and click those links. We had talked a little bit earlier about sending things out via Outlook, or via email. They can get lost, they can get deleted, but we knew within Cornerstone that they would find that information within their transcript, that they could click those links. So we just felt that that was such a better way to present that information. And to be honest, we will be continuing moving forward. Anything that is important of that nature, policies, updates to anything, sending it through Cornerstone is going to be the way to go, because we know that that information will be continually held within their transcript.
So for you clock watchers out there, yes, we are at just a minute to 60-minute time, but I want to finish with a super fast lightning round for our panelists. We've talked today about 4 C's that are really driving this time of change, and that is communication, connection, calibration, and catalyst. For our panelists, give me your top C today as you start looking forward. What C are you focused most on? Lisa?
Communication.
Woo, Caitlin.
I'm going to copy and say the same thing. Communication.
Communication, Leanne.
Common theme, communication.
Communication. You heard it here first, folks. If your people don't know what you need them to do, there is no tomorrow. All right. I'm going to send you all a very quick poll in the hopes that if you want more information about what we've talked about today, click yes. If not, click no or ignore it altogether. You will not hurt my feelings. We have talked about a lot of great things today. Thank you for your time. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for your interest in Cornerstone. Be well.